Hi everyone, this is your Love Tap video, tips for dealing with anger. Let me start by saying, as a culture, as a society, people in the world are not very good at identifying and expressing anger. So we just want to acknowledge that as a whole, we're not very good at it. The reason why it's important for you to get good at anger is because in my blog post, I listed 32 negative health impacts for not dealing and managing your anger. So anger, unidentified and unprocessed, is very, very bad for your health. It's toxic. It's a good emotion if you can recognize it, process it, deal with it in a healthy way. And it's important that you understand that if you're not dealing with your anger and it's not identified and processed, then one of two things is most likely to happen. Number one, you'll either take your anger and direct it inwards at yourself, which can cause a lot of negative impacts, or you might take your anger and express it outward towards others, which could come in the form of aggressive behavior or passive aggressive behavior. There's lots of negative ways that anger can kind of ruin your life if you don't get ahead of it. So I'm going to give you some tips for getting on the train for learning how to deal with anger. Number one, you want to make a commitment that this is a skill that's important to have. It's important for your health. It's important for your mental and emotional well-being. Being able to get angry and know you're angry and express it properly is really healthy and it's very helpful. So number one, you want to make a commitment that you're going to learn the skills on how to manage and deal with anger. Number two, sometimes people are ashamed when they feel angry or they're embarrassed. This is particularly true if you grew up in a household or in an environment where you weren't allowed to be angry. And that also happens. So when we live in a culture that's not good with anger, lots of people grow up not learning how to be angry, how to process, and how to deal with it. So ditch any shame or embarrassment. There's nothing to be shamed about being angry. You want to just learn how to deal with it. The next tip is, if you're new to dealing with anger, you're going to have to learn to even identify when you're angry, because that's not going to come naturally. If you've gotten this far in life and you don't have anger skills, it starts with being able to identify that you're even angry, because some people were brought up that it's not okay to be angry. So identifying when it's appropriate to be angry or that you're even angry is a good starting point. The next tip for you is, I have a video about that deals with an emotional vocabulary sheet. And you're going to want to look at that video because you're really going to want to up your level of vocabulary when it comes to anger, because there's lots of variations and strengths of anger, and you want to be able to pinpoint, are you just frustrated or you're furious? There's a little bit of a difference there. So you're going to go to work on increasing your emotional vocabulary, which is helpful all over, not just in dealing with anger, and that's going to be helpful. The next thing that's really going to help you is assertiveness skills. I have a video about that, so that'll give you some tips, but that's going to help you feel better, boost your self-esteem. It's going to be good for you in all kinds of areas. That's really going to be helpful when it comes to learning how to deal with anger. The next tip I have for you is you're going to have to practice. You're going to have to practice expressing anger in an appropriate way. Now, I do have a video about having difficult conversations that has some tips on how to prepare and how to practice and some things like that. That'll be really helpful, because you want to make sure when you're expressing anger that you're doing it in a healthy way and that you're using people's statements and behaviors as well as how you feel, instead of just making blanket statements like, you make me feel blah, blah, blah. It's more powerful to say, when you do X or when you say Y, it makes me angry, because that's helpful. That gives them a behavior. It gives them a statement or something they've said. So there's some skills to build here that'll be really helpful and powerful to you. Now, the next thing that is helpful is for you to begin to understand the nature of passive aggressive behavior. So you're going to start where you start, which is learning to identify your anger and then expressing it properly. But eventually, as you move along the road of growing skills in anger, it's very powerful to understand the distinction of passive aggressive behavior, which I covered in my anger blog post you can find online. That's not this video, but it is something to be very watchful and aware of, because it will help you have a powerful life if you can recognize someone else's passive aggressive behavior, and hopefully you're not being passive aggressive. That's not cool. That's not good. Another thing that will help you while you're on the road to learning anger skills is one of those things I call a foundational thing to do, which is self-care. Really fun, good for you. It's going to be helpful in every area. And lastly, this is something that I recommend to everyone because it's fun and it's powerful and gives you a great life. So go to work on growth and development. This is really where the goodies are, help you feel better about yourself, help you have a powerful life. And I want you to be able to understand anger in and of itself is not a bad emotion. It's what you do with your anger that makes it good or bad. So let's get to work on building some anger skills, because I think you'll find that's helpful. It will definitely free you up, and it will definitely help you not suffer the negative health effects of holding on to your anger. Take care and let me know how I can help you.